This flowchart helps you to understand the overall steps on how to write a PS. There are altogether 7 steps. Let's begin with step 1. Before you begin with the writing of a PS, you need to begin with a technique called begin with end in mind. This means that you need to review your course syllabus, and while you are reviewing your course syllabus, you need to start identifying the knowledge, section, chapters or topics which is or are suitable for embedding PBL pedagogy. In step 2, refer to your course syllabus again, and focus at the domains of learning. In our typical course syllabus, the domains of learning are 1. Knowledge and understanding. 2. Cognitive skills. 3. Interpersonal skills and responsibility. 4. Communication, information technology and numerical skills, and 5. Psychomotor skills. In order for you to write a PS, you need to draw out the necessary skills from the domains of learning. In step 3 and 4, you need to refer to the PS template. Let's look at the blank PS template now. On the top left column, course name is where you type in the course title, for example Principles of Software Engineering. Write the course code here in this column, CS277. In the document number column you type in the name of institution you are working, the 5 to 6 digit course codes and the number of problem statement, for example, YUC-CS277-01-Revision 01. In the next column you must fill up the date of when this document is made, for example, February 7, 2016. In the title column, you need to type a title. You must remember that in order for you to write the title you must make sure that the title is an engaging one. It must have a relevant characteristic, catchy, controversial, inquiry type, and motivational. The title must be able to hook the audience attention. Not necessarily related to content, but the title will direct to a further discussion. In this walkthrough, we will use the title. Keep calm, let the PM handle it. Meanwhile, in the duration column, you will need to type in the number of hours this activity will happen. Ideally the allocation of hours should align with the nature of activities and the intended learning outcomes. It is recommended to specify hours as reflected in your course syllabus. For this example, we will type in 6 hours, in 2 weeks. The next column is called the big question. This is the column that you type a formulated statement that comprises of a central idea. A concept or a principle derives from a typical end of chapter, an assignment, or homework that is usually assigned to your students, test or exam questions, or questions that you usually ask your students in your classroom. In another word, the big question or statement is a statement that will help your students to understand the concept that you are teaching. In another word, is what you intended to achieve in the outcomes of the topics. For example, understand real problem, recognize business process or system requirement, operation management. Next is the learning outcomes column. In this column you need to list the selected learning outcomes that you have identified from the course syllabus to conduct the PS activity. As the author that will craft the PS, you need to understand in depth the level of learning outcomes that will guide you when crafting the problem. In order to help you to understand the process, here are some examples taken from the Principles of Software Engineering. Develop logical and problem-solving skill. Model design view in multiple audience perspectives using the appropriate design tool or diagram. Demonstrate ability to communicate conceptual knowledge using the appropriate formal language. Let's move on to the topics. In this column, you will need to list down the topics or chapters or sections that define the knowledge where learning should take place during the activity. Let's look at the examples. In the triggers, learning issues column, you will need to list the selected important or big keywords to reflect the knowledge that your students should acquire. In other words, triggers are hints for your students to probe for the solution. On page 2 of the blank PS template, is the space where you begin to type the problem statement. According to the best practice of writing a problem statement, there are 5 characteristics or criteria that you may need to know in order to write a good problem statement. First, the statement should engage your students' interest, motivate them to probe for deeper understanding of concepts that are being introduced, and take shape as much as to real-world context. The problem should be an ill-structured one. Second, the problem statement introduced should require your students to make decisions or judgments based on the facts, information, logic or rationalization. As a hint, check while conducting the activity. If these situations are taking place, students can make assumption, justify or reason when making a decision based on the perceived and collected knowledge. Third, problems are designed with multiple stages, and given to students at different phases. Begin with open-ended, and iteratively helps adding meaning when necessary, as the students work through the problem. Fourth, the level of complexity reflected through the needs of collaborative activity when working out for the solution. As a hint, avoid problem that will direct to divide and conquer as problem-solving strategy. Fifth, ensure that the problem introduced will incorporate course content objectives, connect new knowledge to concept in other courses or disciplines, recommended. The problem should challenge the student's cognitive skills, which is to develop higher-order thinking skills, defined according to the revised Bloom taxonomy. It is optional that you add some images to support your statement, to make it more interesting. Let's look at this example. You have been consulted by your team of software developer who is having problem to recognize the best approach to complete the secure jobs received this week. They received different scenarios for some projects that are waiting for development. As a manager, you are required to advise your subordinate how to start the software project development work. Write your suggestions and prepare a briefing for the next meeting. The next column focuses on expected outcomes or deliverables. In here you need to type about how you need your students to deliver the discussion. In this case you may provide some guides like informing your students to produce a presentation by using PowerPoint or using flipchart. This may help your students to present and discuss their findings with their group members. Look at this example. The last column is known as the resources. What you should do is to type the list of resources and references that you want your students to refer to. List of resources may consist of text, audio files, videos, diagrams, photos, discussion thread, comments, speech, news, film, articles, journals, book chapters, proceedings, reports, thesis, abstract, scenario, case study analysis and other types of resources. For citation list, you may need to standardize universal citation format relevant to your field such as MLAS, APA, Chicago or Harvard style. Now you may see an example to explain what I have explained. Let's come back to the flowchart. In step 4, it is suggested that before you plan your PS writing you need to refer to attachment 3, which is the PS checklist. Here is the checklist. The checklist is divided to 3 parts. 1. Content and presentation. 2. Characteristics. 3. Learning environment and resources. Read through the checklist before you begin to start with step number 3 and 4. Step 5. Once you have completed your PS writing into the template, you need to submit and discuss the PS with a review committee. This review committee is known as the PSRC, or Problem Statement Review Committee. In step 6 the PSRC will finalize the review of your PS. During this stage, a consultation is needed to refine and to change the PS that you have made. The last and final step is called step 7. During this final step, you as the author of the PS is expected to evaluate, assess and record all your comments. The final PS document is then stored onto the assessment portfolio repository.